In this video, we're going to take a look at Heron Plume, the Sherwin-Williams paint color that I really love. And more importantly, I'm going to make an entire color palette based around it, including trim color options and some room color options, so you can be set for your next paint project. I'm James the Color Guy. This, of course, is Color Quickie, the YouTube series where we talk about colors and color palettes that you can use in your home. And the way we do it is we start with one color and then slowly add other colors to create color schemes that are cohesive, interesting, and fun. And I wanted to talk about Heron Plume because I've seen a lot of comments regarding it in the comment section below because it has been featured as one of the 2024 color mix forecast colors by Sherwin-Williams. And if you don't know what that means, it just means it's one of the trendy colors that Sherwin-Williams is pushing on us. But really, it's been around for a while. Ultimately, it's an off-white. So this means it's not quite a white paint color, even though it is pretty light. And we can tell how light it is based on its light reflectance value. And if you're new to the channel, this is a number I always try to focus on. You can check the Sherwin-Williams website for it. We can see here that it's a 75 LRV. So that's quite literally 3/4 of the way to pure bright white. The higher that LRV number is, the more light it's going to reflect. And the more light it reflects, the brighter it will appear. So 75, to put things into perspective, is maybe 15 to 20 points lower than the brightest paint color out there. A perfect 100 doesn't exist, but you can get whites that are in like the 93, 94 range, depending on the company. So a 75 isn't that bright comparatively speaking, but it's light enough that it's going to have this feeling of airiness and openness. And that means in most cases, it's a color that's not going to feel too dark to anyone. Because it isn't. It's a lighter color. Now, in terms of what kind of color it is, Sherwin-Williams describes it as a cool leaning off-white, but I think that can be misleading because there is some warmth to it as well. It has this beigey gray quality to it. You can maybe describe it as a grayish on the lighter side of things, but its undertones do lean a little bit cooler. Depending on your actual lighting that's in your space, it can give Heron Plume an almost violet undertone that shows up, a slight purple tinge to it, but it's very subtle because it's a very light color and it has a nice level of desaturation. So it's muted, it's neutral. This neutral quality does give it a lot of versatility and adaptability, which is nice. So if you like to experiment with different design styles in your home from room to room, this is a color that you can continue as your main color and not really disrupt things too much because it's a very solid neutral canvas color. This one to me just seems to have a combination of a brown base with a touch of gray. So it does lean a little more towards the taupe side of things, albeit to a lighter degree. So in practical use, even though it is kind of transitionary, I do favor it with cooler colors. And those are the type of colors that I chose for today's pairings. Starting with the trim color options, the first one is White Snow. And this is one of the newer white paint colors by Sherwin-Williams. It is quite bright. If you look at the LRV, it has a 90-point LRV. So 15 points higher or brighter than Heron Plume. So you're gonna have a nice level of contrast if you use White Snow as a baseboard color, for example, or on the ceiling. It's going to pop because of the difference in brightness. And then on the opposite side of things, you have an off black as a really dark trim color option in Black Swan. And this is a color that you could argue is an off black because it's not one of those jet black colors, but because it's so dark, that's a 4 LRV. It's very, very low. That is nearly as low as you can get as a paint color, but it's also not free of undertones. It almost has this inky, cool violet quality to it as well. So there is a parallel between this and the undertones in Heron Plume, a little bit of that purple touch, but it's going to be subtle in either case, which is fine. So the two will be able to coexist really well. Just keep in mind that a 4 LRV paint color, very dark, very contrasty. So this is going to be your dramatic color choice. You can use it as a trim or a door color, inside, outside. And if you're feeling really moody and you want to use it in a room on the walls, maybe a powder room would be kind of where I would draw the line. It is extremely dark. Let's get to the actual color pairings that you can use in other rooms, starting with Icicle. This is a 73 LRV color, so a little bit similar to Heron Plume in terms of depth, but instead of being a slightly grayish, light taupey violet, this one is neutral in the sense that it's still desaturated, but a little cooler leaning. So a more prominent use of a blue aspect, even though it's labeled as being part of the purple family, because just like a lot of the other colors we've talked about, there is that touch of purple as an undertone in the background. So you can kind of see this as a very soft, subtle pastel periwinkle to a certain degree. I just love the playful aspect of this paint color. Wonderful choice as a secondary color, I would say, in a palette, where Heron Plume would be the more anchoring color that would sort of go in the majority of your home, where Icicle would just be sprinkled in to certain pockets where you want a little more of a cool feeling, a little more of a serene sort of styling. But if you're looking for a little more depth, you have African Gray as your second choice. And this is a little bit reminiscent of a previous color of the year in Evergreen Fog. Not identical colors, but it is kind of a grayed out green that I really enjoy. This color has a decent amount of depth. It's a 31 LRV, so quite dark, not quite Black Swan territory, but you get the gist. This is a color that has a little bit of a slate gray green with a minty freshness overtone. So instead of a purple undertone, this one does lean a little more towards the bluey green side of things. So a little more adjacent, not quite in that same exact family undertone wise, maybe just a close neighbor, but definitely on the cooler side of things. You're still in a good place in terms of depth where it's a statement color, but it's not going to alienate you because of how deep or vibrant it is. So this is a color that you could theoretically use nearly as much as Icicle, even though it's a lot darker. It's not dark enough where it should intimidate you, especially if you have a decent amount of lighting to liven the color up. And then finally, the third color, we're doubling down on these cool colors. This is my favorite navy blue, I think, from Sherwin-Williams. Indigo Batik. Absolutely beautiful navy blue, kind of in that denim blue territory that I really enjoy. It's a color that really comes to life when you introduce light to it. It has an 8 LRV, so not as dark as Black Swan, that dark trim color, but still quite dark. This is obviously a great color if you want some navy blue cabinets or vanities or furniture, but also as a room color. A dramatic statement, living, dining room, family room. There's a lot you can do here. It is a beautiful, rich color. I love it. Probably my favorite color in this video as well. Here's the palette all together. Please let me know what you think. And also check out our Patreon where we have exclusive content released every single Sunday. And if you become a Prime member, every quarter, you get your own personalized color palette by me. Link in the description down below. Catch you in the next video.